What up, Screen Fiends? I'm GB, and you're tuned in to Headz TV, where we like to discuss all the wonderful things appearing on your movie and your TV screens. In this episode, we're going to discuss Fear the Walking Dead, and only one, of the reasons why it's just not as good as its predecessor. Alright, I know I said that this was going to be a discussion about Fear the Walking Dead, but this is my second time recording it, and I'm telling you right now, it's a rant. It's going to turn into a rant. It turned into a rant the last time when I tried to do it, and then the two cuts before that where I didn't really get through the whole thing, so I won't consider that a rant. So this is definitely a rant. Fear the Walking Dead. Alright, there's many problems with this show. But on this video, we're only going to focus on one of those problems. One of those problems. There will be subsequent videos that deal with the other major problems with Fear the Walking Dead. But in this video, we're only going to talk about the problem of Fear the Walking Dead not really just mirroring the original Walking Dead, but kind of copying the storylines, the through lines, and the season formats of the original, and it's a grievous crime. You have a bunch of stuff from the comic that was either totally changed, not used, or remixed enough that you can still make it your own. There's stuff from the novels. There's a couple of novels that have good stuff in it. There's the Telltale games, and there's something else that Hollywood and TV lacks sometimes. Creativity and imagination. You can come up with your own storylines. But that's not what they choose to do on Fear the Walking Dead. No. All right, let's get into it. Now, this video isn't going to be picking on Season 1 too much, because even though Season 1 did have some similarities and some similar beats to the story as Season 1 of the regular Walking Dead, there was enough changes and enough of a different dynamic where it felt different enough. So I'm not going to include that in this video. I'm going to skip Season 1. Season 2, I'm going to do after I do Season 3. Why? Because Season 3 is what we're watching right now. And already I see way too many similarities and just straight ripping from the original series. When, like I said, there's so much other stuff you can rip from. And they're ripping it and not even making it better. They're making it worse in their handling of the subject matter, and that makes it an even worse crime as a Walking Dead fan in my eyes. In my eyes, as a Walking Dead fan. Sorry. All right, let's get into this. So Season 3, boom. Let's start first off with the Travis situation. Okay? So I don't mind that it happened and he died and all that, but who dies in the beginning of Season 3 of the original Walking Dead? Lori. Who dies in Season 3 in the beginning of Fear? Travis. Are we already seeing a similarity? So Travis is Madison's significant other. Lori is Rick's significant other. You can arguably say that Madison is the main character of Fear, and obviously Rick is the main character of The Walking Dead. So here we have Season 3 both opening with, not opening, but very close to the beginning of the season. We have the main character's significant other dying, and then them reacting in a dramatic way, of course, right? But if you watch Rick's scene, and then you watch Madison's scene of them reacting to the news of their significant other dying, Rick's is done in a very emotional, well-acted, well-directed way. Whereas Madison, nowhere near that. It's like a budget version of Rick's. And I'm sorry, to the actress who plays Madison, but it just didn't land for me, whereas Rick's gave me chills. Rick's gave me the feels. Rick's had me choked up. Now, who tells Madison that Travis is dead? Alicia, her daughter. Who tells Rick that Lori's dead, or at least lets him know that Lori's dead? Carl, his son. Way too much there. Okay, now we have the Clarks at Broke Jaw Ranch, just like we had the group at the prison. We have conflict within the prison. We have conflict within Broke Jaw Ranch and its residents. That conflict is sorted out in both cases. And then in both cases, the remaining people from each community, the prison and Brokejaw Ranch, accept the group. It's just different in terms of numbers, where the majority is from Brokejaw Ranch accepting the Clarks, whereas at the prison, the majority was Rick's people accepting the prisoners. Then we have, in the original Walking Dead, Andrea and Michonne, who was a new character at the time, at Woodbury with the governor and Merle, who Andrea knew way back from season 1. Now we have Fear, season 3, Strand, character from season 1, at a dam, a large community with resources, not too different from Woodbury, with a megalomaniac, ego trippy kind of leader in Dante versus the governor. And who shows up at the dam? A character we thought was dead. Merle. Oops, I'm sorry, I mean Daniel shows up. I don't have to say who shows up at Woodbury in the original Walking Dead, but it's Merle, a character we thought could be dead from season 1. Both Daniel and Merle were characters that were badass, but had a radical view of things where everybody didn't always see eye to eye with that character, and they have a family member that's also involved in the situation, where Merle had Daryl and Daniel has Ophelia. It's the same thing. Now, I guarantee you, season 3, it's going to be a war between the Dam versus Brokejaw, just like the war between the governor and Rick. It's going to be the same thing rehashed. There's going to be differences, but they're not going to be big enough differences or done well enough to make us appreciate it. I guarantee you that. So that's where we're at so far with season 3. Let me just move to season 2 for a second. Now, season 2 of Fear saw the group a little tiny bit on the road, almost nothing, right? And most of the stuff that we saw on the road was just from 2 characters, Travis and Chris. And everybody else was, first we were dealing with the boat people, who are obviously bad people. Who does Rick and them deal with in the first half of season 2? In Nebraska, Dave and Tony. Seemingly bad people from a bad community. Obviously bad people from a bad community. So both of that happens there, right? Season 2 and season 2. We have one of the characters going bad. One of our good guys, one of our main characters going to the dark side and taking these radical beliefs and these moves and motives and stuff that just aren't what good people do. You had Shane doing that in the original. You had Chris doing that in Fear. You had Travis trying to protect Chris. You had Rick trying to protect Shane and talk him back. Same thing. One were like brothers, the other were father and son. Then you have in Fear, then, we have these communities that we get to in the hotel, in the Mexican compound, in where Luciana's people live. Right? You have these 3 communities where the rest of the season takes place in one of these communities, where there's no more time on the road, there's no more exploring, none of that. It's all in these communities. Now, with season 2, there wasn't 3 or 4 communities. There was only one. It was the farm, and it was the whole entire season we were at the farm. It's not much different. All you're doing is putting a different dressing on the same idea of hunkering down for a whole season. It's the same thing. And then you have, this distrust in all of these communities in Fear. And not knowing who to trust and this and that. And you had the same thing at the farm. Who do we trust? Do we trust these people? Do we let them in? Do we accept them? Do we make them part of who we are? Blah, blah, blah. We had all of that in both seasons. So, basically, what my point is, Oh, and then in season 2, we had Shane die, we had Chris die. That same character that we talked about earlier, right? So here's my point. My point is why would you borrow from the original show when you also take place in that same cinematic universe? You're not in a different medium, like a video game or a book or a comic. You're in the same medium, in the same universe. It was marketed as this is in the same thing as The Walking Dead. This is just going to be earlier in the storyline before Rick wakes up from a coma. So I get it. But why are you copying all the same story beats? It doesn't make sense. What they should be copying from The Walking Dead is the general way, not always. Walking Dead has pacing problems at times too, I admit, okay? But they have way better pacing than Fear. They have way better action than Fear. They made the zombies scary first. Fear has yet to do that. So these are other problems I'm going to talk about in other videos. But my point is mirror the structure. Mirror the fact that Walking Dead is about character first. Then walkers. Then story. Now, yes, character does fall in with story, so I'm not saying story is third or last in The Walking Dead. Story is still a priority, but getting attached to the characters and taking care of the characters is what's most important, and Fear doesn't borrow that. All they borrow is the exact same storyline. Now, in The Walking Dead comic book, I'm going to use the comic because that's what most people are familiar with, but the Telltale games and the novels have good ideas in them as well that weren't used in the original series. Maybe they plan on using them, I don't know, but they haven't yet is the point. But now, if you look at the comic, there's enough stuff that was changed drastically or that was totally left out. The whole prison story is a million times different in the comic than it is in the original story. So now, do you set it in a prison? No, that's stupid because the original show did that. But do you take some of those ideas and some of those plots and some of those stories and mix them around in a new setting with these new characters? Yes, that's what you do because The Walking Dead skipped over it. And you know what? If they plan on using it in the future, they can still use it. They just need to change things up again so it just feels fresh. And this is why The Walking Dead feels fresh versus the comic. You know, like the comic was good and great and fresh when we first read it. And then you see a remake show, oh, well, they're just going to be doing those same storylines again, but I'll watch it. But no, they do it in a different enough way where it still feels fresh compared to the comic. And the companion series, Fear, should have took that same approach as going for a fresh thing. And I thought that's what they were doing in their setting. And, you know, how it was in California, West Coast, more of a city environment. You know, the fact that it was dealing with a larger family as opposed to a bunch of strangers. I liked all these ideas and they just weren't executed right. So, you know, I don't know if there's any correcting it now. We'll see how season 3 has started off okay to me. But once I'm noticing these same beats, it's going to start to be predictable. And not only, which would be good for my videos, I guess, but not only that, it's going to make it boring, especially if it's handled in a worse way or a less effective way. That's what I'm saying. All right, yeah, that's it for this one. Sorry it was so long. I had to get that out there. But yes, Fear the Walking Dead straight rips off The Walking Dead when what it should do is pay homage to it and maybe borrow little things or broad things like structure or format or character development instead of taking exact story beats and thinking that it's gonna come out different or better somehow, especially when your show running and directing is worse. I just don't get it. Sound off down below. Let me know what you think about my rant here. Let me know what you think about the video in general, or give me your thoughts on it, on this situation that I'm talking about. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Whatever. I like to get into these conversations. I can't do that unless you hit me up in the comments. So hit me up down there. I'm good at getting back. Like I said, I like to get into these conversations. Yep, that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Always appreciated. You guys have a fantastic day, and I will see you next time.